us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rules, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true, doing it our way. Nothing's gonna hold us back now. Straight ahead and on the track now. Gonna make our dreams come true, doing it our way.
Hey homies, what's up? Ryan Wynn here with another episode of Late Night INKS. And tonight with me, I have 4 special guests, not just one. Tonight we have the Fantastic Four. Mr. Ben Grimm, Mrs. and Mrs. Reed Richards, and Susan Richards Storm. I don't know, or Susan Storm Richards, or Susan Richards, Susan Storm, I don't know. And her brother, the Flaming Guy. So, I was a big fan of this book as a kid. This is one of the first issues that really, the artist really stood out to me, and this is one of the John Byrne issues. This cover is especially fantastic because it is inked by my favorite inker, Terry Austin. But Terry does not handle the inks on the inside. John handles them himself, and he does a fantastic job anyways. So I've been using this particular issue where the Fantastic Four fights Ego, the Living Planet, for research. It's one of my favorite issues. Like I said, as a kid, it stood out to me. Found it at a thrift store on a trip with my grandparents from Northern California to Southern California. And I got a stack of comics, and this one was kind of the only one I focused on. So I've been using that for inspiration. I really like the corner boxes. I've kind of wanted to do a piece similar to that. So I took John Byrne's little head designs and did my own versions. I mean, I basically copied his thing because the design is strong. And I let his style inspire the other 3 characters. I sort of used his forms, and then the details were sort of my own style. Where the eyes are maybe a little wide apart. I tend to do that. I even brought them together digitally before I inked this. So, anyways, let's get to it. Yammering away. It's always 2 minutes before I get to ink him. So tonight we're going to be using our trusty blue-barreled zebra marker. Now this one has a little bit of wear and tear on it. It's not as sharp as a brand new one, which I actually prefer. Sometimes there's a little bit on the end that I'll even cut off because I sort of like it rounded off. Now, we're going to start with the thing. And what do I usually say? So drink some water before we talk some more. Here we go. It's the other thing I always say about how do we start? I always say we do our contours first, right? Well, that's true when you're inking on the original pencils, or if it's something very cartoony like my Monkey King piece or something like that. If you don't know what my Monkey King piece is, that's another inking video you can go check out. Now, the reason I change the rules for blue line, and I start with the eyes, we'll do the highlight and then the pupils. Now, the reason I do that is because with blue line, you're dealing with a different beast on your eyes. Now, if I were to start with the contour and work my way in, by the time I got to these eyes, it'd be kind of hard to see the blue lines because the black creates a contrast with the white, and your eyes pick up on that the most, and it sort of makes it harder to read. So I learned a long time ago, when you're inking blue line, you start with the eyes and work your way out. Now, I was drawing earlier today, and I pulled this marker out of a batch of these markers that I have, and it had just the right feel. It's getting just the right bounce. It gets a nice thin line, nice thick line. It sort of mimics a metal nib, but it feels like you're inking with a pencil. It sort of feels like a soft, very soft lead, to me anyways. And you'll hear me talk about that a lot on this channel, is like the experience of the tool. because it's one of the things I prefer over, one of the reasons I prefer brush inking with a real brush over anything else is the actual experience of working with the tool. It's not so much the effect. Excuse me. All right, I'm yammering away and I'm losing course of where I want to go. So this is all okay. These are all the things we didn't want to lose sight of. Now I think we actually could do the contours now and kind of go back to our rules, but you always want to start with those eyes. So we are going to start right at the top. I'm going to spin our board. Now most of these lines I'm going to be pulling towards myself. I'm going to do somewhat thin on top. And it's the thing, so you can get a little crusty or bouncy with the lines however you want. I'm going to get really heavy on some of these shadow lines. It is kind of fun with these markers. You can bear down and really get a nice heavy line out of it. Excuse me. All right, going to continue. You want to move with confidence. And again, with the thing, you can. He's a good one. He's a good one to warm up with on this batch if you're doing the ink along. And I probably should mention that for anyone that doesn't know. So in a lot of these videos, I am going to be, probably for most of them from now on, I'm going to be attaching a link down below that has a file where you can download the image and ink along yourself, which is why I talk about which steps I'm taking while sort of yammering away about stories, with stories sometimes too. And you can tell I speak so eloquently. Yeah, sometimes, even though, like I said, I prefer the real brush, sometimes you just find another pen or something, another tool that just, it's like, hey, use me today. You're like, all right, little buddy, I'll use you today. And this guy was ready for the task, and he stepped up to it. So our figures are overlapping a little. So don't think that I cut into Reed's hair there. I mean, I did, but they're not actually touching, they're just overlapping images. Anyways, back to it. So where was I? We did those, or did the contours. Now we're going to finish, let's do the top of his mouth here. Because I always like to work sort of like a printer if I can. You know what? I didn't make that, those teeth need to be more open. Little bit of space so that he's not completely biting through his cigar. And then here we're going to go heavy. We may connect some of these lines a little bit after, but we're inking the underside of each one of these scaly rock bits that he's got there. And then from that little spot, we're going to have his cigar piercing out. It's burning up at the end. We got a little bit of ash falling off. And you got a little couple embers kind of popping up like that. Doopity doop, shoopity boop. And then back to his brow. His brow's got big, heavy underside because it's its own like shelf piece basically. So these can be nice and heavy, you can get nice and crusty. And the top ones, you want to take those thinner. Now sometimes I'll do things a little bit differently where I might do these dividing lines first, because now you've got to make these openings meet up with these openings, but you know, that's kind of your preference, how you feel like breaking that up. Now I even copied John's scale pattern. Not to a T, but pretty close. I had a slightly different image on my monitor I was using as reference. It was larger than that. But I haven't drawn the thing that often. I really like his version, and I want to sort of pay tribute to what I see in my mind's eye as the thing from my childhood. So why not use him as reference? My style still comes through. I'm not so much swiping as this is an homage. I guess this is a swipe, I don't know. But it's definitely an homage. Now here you can bounce thick to thin and get heavy again towards the ends. I'm going to go through and do all the, I mean, even though I'm spinning the board, they're basically the more like vertical lines on his brow. And then I think I'm going to do them thin, kind of get the bounces I want. And then I'm going to come back in and heavy some of them up where those shadowy bits are. I like to have these little bloops and bulbs and breaks. And then we'll flip that page. He's slightly lit from above. All the characters will be slightly lit from above. Which is why his little highlight is here on his right side, our left, coming from there. But then Reed's will be coming from here and hers will be there. That way we're kind of keeping a focus down the center. All right, so speaking of keeping a focus, let's get back to this. Now, John Byrne's a very thoughtful artist. You may hear he's a jerk or whatever, or he's a grumpy dude or this or that. I don't care about any of that stuff. We're talking about how thoughtful and smart of an artist he is. So when you start trying to draw or ink something like The Thing, you're looking at it and it looks random because the lines don't exactly break where human features would break, but they have a natural organic feel to them that almost it's a real nice balance of, you can tell this is a face, but it's completely made of rocks that look like they're shifting and moving over each other, like living rocks. And that's where his thing feels different than other people's. And the way he puts his heavy shadows in spots, it actually feels like these rocks are shifting and moving around as the thing moves and talks. So these lines just move with confidence. Doesn't matter if they meet up perfect or if they're thick or thin in the wrong spot. That's kind of okay, and it helps to the organic look of the thing. So don't be too caught up on these have to be perfect on the first try either, because I'm going to go in and beef some of those up. These ones I'm going straight ahead because these ones are nice and beefy. So I know that's not a proper art term, but I like to use it. So you're going to hear lots of improper art terms from me. So do not expect to take the things I say and go sound all hoity-toity around your artist friends, because they are going to look at you like you are quite a weirdo. All right, we got a little smoke coming off there. All right, our next step. Now we've got our contours, we did our eyes, we've got our cigar going. The next thing I really want to do some zigzag rendering on the cigar here, but I don't know if since that's what I want to do, I'm going to do the other stuff first. So we need to beef up the undersides here. If you were smart, you would have done that already. I'm going to thicken those up, make a nice shadow. I'm going to connect. So I gave a space here between some of them, but I'm going to do a connecting line underneath those so that you still get that gap between the rocks, but we start hinting at this drop shadow. And this is just going to be all black, or this cast shadow, whatever you want to call it. And then his brow gets a little closer. It's a heavier shadow to the sides because it sticks off more. Such an interesting design. I love that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and add these little pock marks in the rocks that you see there. And the reason these are broken on the bottom is these are indentations into him, and since the light's coming from above, we're just getting the little shadow bits of these. And you don't want to do too many and you do want them to feel organic. You don't really want a pattern, or an obvious pattern. I usually put a little flow to anything I do, but you don't want it to be like 3 here, 3 there, 3 here, 3 there. All right, I think that works. And the next thing we want to do is the rendering. And rendering is the lines that follow the form. And I'm going to be pulling in on these lines. And since we're on the higher part of his head, we're going to keep them relatively thin. And we're following the form of the head that's rounded out like this, but we're also treating each piece individually, as you can see. And that also makes it a little easier for you if you're kind of new to this and getting comfortable at doing this kind of stuff. These are just a bunch of short lines. You don't have to do big long lines all at once. And I'm going to add a few ticks here and there, all following that pattern and that light source. It's going to be a little different on the brow here. Oh, you know what? We forgot to thicken up some of these lines. Let's go ahead and do that. Should be thick there. Beefing up lines, going around, and we forgot his cast shadow here. For the nose, it sticks out a little. Just do a little thingamajig like that. And let's get back to rendering these here. Now you can go the other way if you want. If you want to flip the board around and do thick to thin lines. The way this marker is bouncing for me today, I am enjoying going this direction with it. And as we curve around his brow, we'll get a little heavier with the lines, but not too heavy. It still lightens up as it goes up. All right, then we have a little bit of shading as this guy rounds out this way. Same thing here. We're going to get a little bit of cross hatching in a moment. Really heavy up these lines. And there's a little rendering here where his eye is sunk in. And then we get his cheekbone here, which this is similar to what you would do on a human. You have these lines there, but these are going to be much more pronounced and straight. You want to keep, you can have a little curvature to them, but you want to keep it straight and feeling like a rock. I'm going to heavy that up. All right, now these lines, make sure you don't cross over onto the cigar. And let's see, got a few here. This is almost how I would ink them with a metal pen nib as well. A few randos there, and then we're going to sort of hint out under his lip, because again, he's not human, but he still has the same features. His nose is there, his mouth is there, all that. And I'm probably going to want to heavy those up, but we're gonna take a look first, because you can always add thickness later to lines. All right, I'm going to do a little rendering here, and I'm going to do a few here just to sort of, I like to have details up by the eyes, little extra things just to kind of add attention to those spots. We're going to heavy these up and sort of connect them inside so that we've got a solid black line there. But we still get the broken up chunks of rock. All right, we're looking good. Oh, we're coming in at 20 minutes for a thing head. This is the last thing I wanted to do. Treat myself with some ziggy-zag bleeds. There you go. So you can practice those on another board. You just press down and just like I did, and you'll get those nice zigzags just like that. All right, so 20 minutes and we inked a thing head. In our next video, hopefully we'll get through the couple. This guy will go quick. But all right, so I'm really excited to see what any of you did with your version. I'm going to eventually color this piece as well, and it's going to be part of a series. If I do any other characters like Marvel characters, I'm going to do classic ones, and I'm going to do them like this. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing my own creations. And some good news, too. We Gods and Gears sold out at headquarters, at alternate headquarters. That's good and bad news. So I've got a bunch still, and I've got some in my store if anyone's interested. And you know, we're gonna hopefully get some more printed up later this year. So hopefully you had fun with this. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got some work done. And until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take it easy. And if you haven't already, head over to alternateaccess.com and check out the book I wrote, Gods and Gears, with art by Dean Kotz and letters by Wes Loker. Issue 4 is out soon.
Stupid cat.